Good evening, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Forum. For Ward 1, we have, for the City Council, we have 13 candidates for Ward 1, which is the central part and southern part of Cheyenne. We have 9 candidates total tonight here. The 5 you see, well, you see 4 of the 5 before you, is being rebroadcast, re-recorded. If you saw the initial one, we're redoing it because of technical difficulties. So actually, these candidates have been grilled twice, and so they deserve a lot of credit for not only for running but showing up twice for this. Just to remind everyone that we've done forums for Mayor, Ward 1 in 2 flights. We have done Ward 2 and 3, and they will be rebroadcast on Tuesday nights. You're going to have at 6 p.m. on channel 192. Charter is going to broadcast the mayoral debates or forums. On Thursdays at 6 p.m. they will broadcast the Ward 1 in 2 flights forums, and then on Sundays at 11 a.m. they're going to broadcast the Ward 2 and 3. So plenty of opportunity to review these forums, and also a version will be posted online. In addition, all these candidates have answered voter guides question for the League of Women Voters, and you can find those on the Cheyenne page of the wyominglwv.org website. So plenty of opportunities to learn about these candidates for Ward 1. You will vote for 2 out of the 13, and a total of 4 will make it to the general election. Early voting has started in the atrium of our county building or by mail. Voting on election day is August 16th, and you can vote in anywhere in the county. There are 13 vote centers. You can vote at any one of those. I urge you to look at the Laramie County Clerk's elections page that has information not only on where to vote, how to register, how to vote, lots of information. And if you don't know what ward you live in, you can find that out too. So I'll welcome our candidates tonight. Today we have David Valencia, Eric Fountain, Reed Eckhart, Pete Laybourne, and we're expecting Chris Camargo later. Just to let you know, the forum format usually has been kind of a round-robin answering. We're going to use a different format just because so we could accommodate people who might not have been able to be here. We'll have to record in a different time. And so what we have is assembled the questions pretty much in order as they were asked the original time, and we're giving the candidates 10 minutes to go through those questions and really apportion the time in the 10 as they deem really important and want to expand. Then at the very end, all the candidates will reassemble or come back together as a group for an extra 2 minutes where they can comment, maybe expand, sum up their own statements, or comment on another. Maybe they'll have a question for another candidate. So that's going to be more of a dynamic part of this forum. So to get started, first of all, we'll start with Pete Laybourne, and you will have 10 minutes. Let me know when you're ready for the next question to come up. Signal me, and we'll start with the first question if you're ready. Okay. Cheyenne has the largest, most complex municipal government in the state. Meanwhile, we heard complaints during the city administrator debate about the power of the mayor's office in the strong mayor form of government to limit council's access to information and decision-making. What is the proper balance of power between those executive and legislative branches? What governing style would you like to see in the new mayor's office?
Thank you, Marguerite. The governing style I'd like to see is an old school governing style that was here for many years, and it was much more cooperative. I've been involved in city government for most of my adult life, and certainly recall when things were much more cooperative. When the budget came up, there'd be a work session in the council office open to the public. The public didn't participate, but they were free to listen. And the department heads would come in and give their priorities. When I was on the council, I often found that it was very difficult to get information, particularly as the date of the meeting came closer. Say mid-afternoon on Monday, you might need to learn a little bit more about something that's going to be coming before the body that night. And frankly, there was a lack of cooperation there. I don't think there's anything that should be kept away from council people to make good decisions. I think that those committee meetings are very important as well. I had a lot of trouble in that regard as well. So opening up the government both to the people and to the council members, I think, is very important, and it's something that I seems to have a different culture developed over the years. Certainly years ago, it was more reasonable, small city, cooperative, and I'd sure like to see that return.
Okay, thank you. With decreasing revenue from our sales tax and less financial help expected from the state, is there room in the city's budget for things other than roads and public safety, historic preservation, bike paths, or other amenities?
Well, certainly when you call them amenities, that's an interesting phraseology. I do think that we have ways to go in historic preservation. I think public involvement is very important. I did restore the vault building at the Lakewood Cemetery when I was on the council, which was a city-owned property in our historic cemetery. I think the city needs to lead by example in historic preservation, and there certainly are things that we can do in that regard that maybe we haven't. The city really needs to be taking its historical assets seriously if it expects the public to, and that is taking advantage of all of the federal tax credits and issues of that nature. Obviously, bike paths and the Greenway are something that's very important to me, and I certainly want to see it continued on the sixth penny ballot. I think that that's finishing what you start is the mark of successful organizations and should be the mark of the city of Cheyenne. I do believe there's a lot we can do in regard to volunteer commitment and public involvement, and that is a program called the Keep America Beautiful, which has chapters in Casper and Gillette, which do a lot to green up and to help the city with various projects. That is certainly something that I would like to see implemented. I've discussed it with the council and the mayor in the past and haven't got very far with it, but it not only does a lot in reaching out to people and getting trees planted and areas cleaned up, but it involves the public in their city government so that they can understand better what it is we do, why we do it, and how we do it. So there's definitely going to be a crunch. Those priorities have to be the infrastructure and the public safety. There's no doubt about that. But I think that there are various things we can do. I'd also like to see the Art in Public Places program come back. That wasn't a big expenditure, but it was something that I thought we could do better with. When we did the sculpture at Martin Luther King Park a number of years ago, I was the chairman of that committee, and we matched funds with the Art in Public Places program to stretch that out. So if we could develop a matching fund program with corporate sponsorship as well as individuals and groups, I think that could go a long way to bringing back the Art in Public Places program.
Okay, third question. What changes, if any, should be made to codes, regulations, and fees?
Well, that's a very, very broad question, and one that whoever's elected to the council with this in this upcoming cycle is going to be dealing with in some pretty serious ways. Probably the primary one that's on people's mind is the Unified Development Code, and that is something that was begun when I was in office, and I followed the process as it went and continued. And one of the really important points that was made during that discussion was the yearly annual review of the program. And I think when we look at that yearly annual review, we've got several years we can look back on now, see some things that might need adjustment, and I believe that's practically inevitable. I hope that we can get that accomplished. I would say that one of the most important things in this area is enforcement of existing codes. I'd like to see more enforcement of the nuisance code, the sign code. I think it's a big mistake when we don't enforce those codes. And I also believe that we need some better expertise in code interpretation in the building department.
Okay, thank you. Now, sort of almost kind of one facet of that, what can and should the city do to support economic growth and development downtown?
Well, I think the first thing the city needs to do is to make it clean. I think we need to make sure that we maintain what we have. I'm working right now with the city and the Downtown Development Authority on a program to help the trees. We have a number of trees in the downtown, in the streetscape. They live in a very, very difficult environment. They need more help than they're getting. I think that we have to maintain what we have. And as I think a lot of people know, I've been an advocate for a long time on curb and gutter and sidewalk work, so you don't have trip hazards and missing particularly unattractive elements of the downtown. I think with Frontier Days coming up and the curb and gutter being the seating of our guests, it's particularly noticeable to me, and I think that's not a good thing. I have participated in many planning sessions over the years in the downtown. I'm a downtown property owner. We own an apartment house. I'm very interested in seeing those kinds of things that we talk about, a grocery store, getting people to live downtown. And of course, that also goes back to code interpretation. But more than anything else, I think the city departments have to work together better. I think sanitation, street and alley, the DDA really need to coordinate their efforts so that our downtown begins to look better. That's the first thing.
Okay. This is a very demanding job. You're richly rewarded by $1,000 a month before taxes, but there's a lot of time commitment to meetings, outside of communicating with constituents and attending events. How much time do you expect to spend each week on these events, all the things entailed by being a council member?
Well, it's difficult. We're not punching a clock, so it's a lot of time. It's time broken up by many things, calls at home. I'm in the phone book and always have been. You're running into folks at the grocery store, and then your time here at the committee and the council meeting. So it's a big commitment. But one of the things I'd really like to emphasize is, if going back to your original question, number one, if we had a more cooperative council, if we had a better relationship with the mayor, everyone's time would be better spent. If we were in a more harmonious relationship, I think that we could get more accomplished. And one of the things I'd particularly like to see is that every council person, when they walk out the door and their term is completed, that they have an accomplishment that they can point to, that the other council members helped them with, and that they can say, I got that done. And that's often not the case today, I'm sorry to say, but really it is time consuming, but I think we can do better in terms of a cooperative atmosphere.
Okay, and finally, would you support a non-discrimination ordinance?
Well, I've been very active in civil rights and human rights my whole life. I'm, as I mentioned, the chairman of the Martin Luther King Memorial Committee. I would say that this is going to be a big step for the city to take on. I'm not sure the initial ordinance that was brought forward really I felt was inadequate. I think that there has to be protections for everyone involved, the complainant, the employer, and that really is something that is not occurring in the city of Cheyenne or in municipal governments at this time. It's handled at the state and federal level. So we'll see what comes up, but I definitely believe that the Quality State and the capital city need to be a leader in making sure that everyone is treated fairly, and that includes elements other than a non-discrimination ordinance. An ordinance in the law is one thing. An atmosphere is also very important, and I think we do generally have a good atmosphere here in Cheyenne. I'm proud of our community, and we have relationships with immigrants. We have relationships with people of all sorts, and always have. So there are obviously times when legal action is necessary, but I think that Cheyenne people are generally pretty good about getting along with each other, and I hope that we can continue that.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much. What was the time on that total?
9 minutes and 39 seconds.
Oh, excellent.
You got 20 more seconds.
Very good. And I did not mention, but would any of you like to have a mark warning, not just at the half mark, but maybe at the 8-minute mark, just to let you know where you are or not? Are you able to keep track of time? What do you think?
I'd like it at 3 and 8, but that's just Omi can signal me if she needs to.
At 3 and 8? Well,
Omi can signal me or y'all can, either way.
well, okay, we want to make it. We might want to make
Oh,
it so
sure.
you can keep track. So
And I'll just raise my hand because all I have is, or I can hold this up.
Yes.
at
At 3 and
3 and 8.
Yeah.
Okay, just to let you know where you are, and again, there'll be 2 minutes at the end, total of 10 if Mr. Camargo shows up, that you guys can talk and back and forth. Okay, excellent. All right, so I guess we'll move on to the next on our list. Mr. Darker, do you want to go? Does anyone? You're
I
good to
can
go?
No
Tonight?
problem at
Okay.
all. I'm ready.
Okay,
If I get this thing in my face properly.
Okay.
Right.
Um,
How's that, Omi?
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Okay, and, one thing I failed to do, I kind of apologize, after the fact that, part of that 10 minutes, could have, introduction, you kind of missed that. But again, at the end, at the 2 minutes, you can certainly talk about yourself and your credentials and introduce yourself. But I guess if you want to take 10 seconds at the very beginning to say something before we launch into the questions, I don't know about the editing about this, I guess. Okay, all right. So do you want to go ahead and start?
Let's go.
We'll launch
start with the
right in
question.
here.
Yeah, go ahead, Marguerite.
All right, very good. Cheyenne has the largest, most complex municipal government in the state. Meanwhile, we heard complaints during the city administrator debate about the power of the mayor's office to limit council's access to information and decision-making. What is the proper balance of power between the executive and legislative branches in our city government? And what governing style would you like to see in the new mayor's office?
Thanks, Marguerite. I'd like to see it be a collaboration. I would love for the mayor and the city council to sit down from day one, have a discussion about where the city is going. We have no mission statement, we have no vision, we have no strategy, we have no plans. It's one of the reasons that we're running for office and why we talk about thinking big, about planning for our future. It would be wonderful if they would put together that strategy and that the mayor then would execute it. It's the council's job to set policy and the mayor's job to execute that policy, as well as run the city, of course. But I think that needs to be done. I can't imagine at any time why anybody would be hiding any information from anyone. The city council represents the people of Cheyenne. If they have a question, it's probably a question they've got from their constituents or the constituents care about. So the mayor should be providing information on the spot without any question. Same thing with the mayor. When he makes a decision, he's willing to explain what he has done, why he has done it, or why he didn't do it. If that's not happening, I don't understand why that's not happening. Yet it's not. A really good example of that is the budget. Right now, Mr. Casing goes behind closed doors with his staff. They prepare a budget, and at some point they deliver it at the feet of the city council, and they have a very short period of time to review it and make decisions. That's how we end up with 2.5% pay raises out of reserves, because there's no time to go through the budget properly. I'd prefer that there be a 3-step process. There'd be public hearings. The public can come and say, this is what I want out of my government. This is how I want you to spend my dollars or not spend my dollars. The mayor can then take that into his budget preparation and then in collaboration with the city council prepare a budget, because things are changing all the time. What may have been needed on day 1 may not be needed on day 10. A collaborative budget at the city council's feet creates a better spending plan, I would say.
Okay, thank you. With decreasing revenue from our sales tax and less financial help expected from the state, is there room in the city's budget for things other than roads and public safety, historic preservation, or bike paths, or other amenities?
Oh, that's a big question. Let's try to break it down real briefly. First of all, the potholes. Despite what some candidates are saying in this race and other city races, this is not an issue of asphalt or concrete or good or bad contractors. This is about money. The city needs about $7 million a year to maintain its roads properly. We are spending $4.5 million a year. That's a 33% deficit every year going forward. We're deferring all that maintenance into the future, and it'll be much more costly down the line. So, where do we get the funding? Well, obviously, the fifth penny is the starting point. We spend 80% of the fifth penny on streets, and that's properly so. The other 20% goes to police, fire equipment, important things that those departments need to keep us safe. So I think the balance is proper out of the fifth penny. We're going to need some money out of the sixth penny, and it's good to see the city's asking for some sixth penny projects now as the conversation begins. And I think we might want to at least talk about using part of that seventh penny. Again, we're running at a $2.5 million per year deficit on our streets, so you've got to get that fixed. Once you know your deficit, now you can talk about your budget. It's up to the mayor and the city council to scrub this budget from top to bottom. It's nice to see that Mr. Casey decided last week it was time to go through his budget. Better late than never, I suppose. We've been after him either in this campaign or in years previous at Tribune Eagle to get that budget scrubbed and looked at. They need actionable steps and plans to get this budget squared away. When revenues fall to a certain point, actions then are taken. We also favor a hiring freeze at this time. I know it's controversial, but we believe that will delay or at least ease the pain of possible layoffs coming down the road. It will protect the jobs of people who are in jobs now rather than worrying about the total number of employees. Finally, amenities. We believe that you take care of your needs and plan for your wants. Let's get some plans in place. We have no plans for the Belvoir. We have no plans for downtown core. Yes, money's tight, but money will come along. It'll come along in the form of grants. It'll come along in the form of reserves, corporate largesse. If we're not ready for it, that money's going someplace else. Better that it stay here.
Okay, thank you. What changes, if any, should be made to codes, regulations, and fees?
I think we need to be careful here. I know the UDC is a wonderful thing to beat up upon, and everybody beats up upon the UDC. I don't think the UDC is the problem. Indeed, we have codes and regulations and other sorts of guidelines to make sure that we are safe, that our homes are built properly, that our community looks like a modern community. The people who are going to want to come to Cheyenne in the future are going to want to see a modern community here. They're going to want their shrubs in their landscape. They're going to want an orderly community. That comes out of codes. I think the bigger problem here has been with working with developers to solve their problems rather than laying down the law. Under the Spiker administration, people sat down many times. The developers sat down with the mayor and they worked out a plan inside the code to get things accomplished. That doesn't happen under the Kasich administration. For them, it's your way or the highway, and thus we have fights. It doesn't need to be that way. A return to the Spiker approach would be greatly appreciated, I would say.
Okay, thank you. What can and should the city do using public resources to support economic growth and development in the downtown area?
I think Cheyenne's a pretty business-friendly community already. We have a number of programs at the state, local, federal levels to help people get their businesses started. We have great agencies like the Chamber of Commerce and DDA to help people get along their way. I don't think, and we also have private programs too, one called SCORE, where they will walk a new business developer from the very beginning of his business to the very end. So I think we can get businesses started here easily. I think we get that perception because of the problem in the building, in the planning department, where you go have an inspector comes in and says, no, you'll fix this. Next inspector comes in and says, no, you'll fix that. Third one says, no, you'll fix that. That drives up costs and delays projects. I think that, and that's a problem that the mayor needs to solve.
Okay, thank you. How much time do you expect to spend each week on regular meetings, community activities, and constituent contacts? All the things entailed by being a council member.
Well, we've heard, and I don't doubt, that it takes at least a 40-hour week to get this job done properly. At that rate, we get paid $5.50 an hour, which is hardly a blessing. But it's not a job for pay. It's a job for community service, and hopefully we all take it on for that reason. Certainly, we're willing to put in whatever hours it takes to get a job done. I've proven that I can do that with many organizations, whether it be the Cheyenne Meth Initiative, the Wyoming Press Association, the Historic Governor's Mansion. I work with my wife to help get that building developed. So it's a matter of just doing the work that's got to be done. And I'd also like to see the council sort of reach out a little bit more to the people. I think we hear as we walk door to door, people say, I don't know my council member. I'd like to meet my council member. I never see them around. So why doesn't the council begin to reach out a little bit? How about doing some listening sessions? Maybe once a quarter we go on the north side or the south side, east side or the west side. And I wouldn't mind seeing taking the government to the people. Why can't a city council meeting be held in the South Side Community Center or up at Lions Park? There's no reason that can't be done. You know, if we can get business closer to people, perhaps they can finish their dinners. They can get up and go to a council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Would you support a non-discrimination ordinance? Explain.
I believe Cheyenne needs to develop a more welcoming culture. And when you hear people say either like it or go back to Colorado, those kinds of things don't function very well in 2016. We need to start thinking about ourselves as truly executing the live philosophy that we all really believe in here. I think an anti-bias ordinance takes us a little step closer to that. I think a passage would say two things. It would say to the outsiders, you are welcome here. We want you here regardless of who you are, what you look like, or how you act, or how different you might be from us. And I think it also sends a message to residents that this is important, that you think about yourselves sort of in a bigger way, that the world doesn't stop at the border of Wyoming, that it goes much further and beyond. So certainly we favor passage of such an ordinance across all classes of people, taking care of, make sure that all people are protected and all their rights are protected. They can't be discriminated against. Some will say that violates people's religious rights. I beg to differ with that. This was settled a long time ago in the South when people tried to use religious reasons to not serve black people. The Supreme Court ruled years ago you cannot base your discrimination or your opinions or your thoughts, your actions upon your religious beliefs. When you get a business license in the city of Cheyenne, you're agreeing to follow the laws of the land, whether they be city, local, state, or federal. Right now, the law of the land is that gay people can't spend time and spend relationships together. That needs to be respected. If you've got a business and you don't want to serve people, you're probably going to turn your business license in and create a private club instead. Of course, the devil's always in the details. I do not like criminal penalty, for example, in the ordinance. I don't think that will ever pass the council, much less be an appropriate action. And there's a bunch of red tape that probably needs to be slimmed down.
All right.
Have I got more time?
Do you have 2 minutes?
2 minutes left.
I want to talk a little bit about big ideas, if I could, please.
Well,
There have been a number of comments in this race and other city races that we can't think about big things. We can't think about the Belvoir. We can't think about the downtown core plan. We don't have any money. We got streets to fix. We got projects to finish. We've got public servants to pay. So thinking about the Belvoir, thinking about the downtown core, just nonsensical. Well, we disagree. We think now is the time for the city of Cheyenne thinking about its future and putting plans in place. The city council done a great job over the past 8 years of playing small ball. Budget's in great shape. The ordinances are in place. They're still working on ordinances. They've got the operations in place. But they've offered very little vision and very little energy for the people of Cheyenne. It's my hope that we can help change that discussion, turn to thinking about big ideas. We all know that Cheyenne's on the verge of great things. But without plans, we will not get the energy or the creativity or the entrepreneurship that we would like to have. Yes, money is tight. Doesn't mean that we can't plan. I think we're smart people. We can plan for our future while taking care of our current needs. We can do that. Just one quick comparison. In 2001, when Lowe's came here looking for a warehouse, we were ready. Those who came before prepared a business park. Everything was in the ground and ready to go, and lo and behold, Lowe's is here. That led to a great snowball. We now have Lowe's, Walmart, Microsoft, NCAR. The ball is here. It's going to keep on rolling, thanks to those who put plans down and infrastructure in place. I believe plans will be our future infrastructure. If we don't have plans in place, we're going to miss out on opportunities. If we're not ready, and a grant comes our way, or corporate largesse becomes a portion of our lives here again, or there are surpluses, we're not going to be able to spend it. It's going to be gone.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Fountain, you ready to start tackling question number 1?
Yes.
And again, you do you want to get the high sign at 5 minutes or at 3 and 6? Where
I'm not really too concerned about it. I figure if we get done, we get done, and if we don't, we don't. So we'll just continue through and make her go for it.
She'll put the 5 minute up, and then you
Okay.
can choose to block it out if
Absolutely.
you want.
That'll be fine, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cheyenne has the largest, most complex municipal government in the state. Meanwhile, we heard complaints during the city administrative debate about the power of the mayor's office to limit council's access to information and decision-making. What is the proper balance of power between the legislative and executive branches? What governing style would you like to see in the new mayor's office?
I know this election we've heard a lot about transparency and about an open door policy and creating that network to work between the two. I generally see the mayor as the CEO. He directs the administrative structure, appointing and removing department heads, and creates a network of quality individuals that can build the infrastructure the city needs administrative ways. When I talk about the city council, I see them as the general administration. They make policies, they set budgets, they meet with constituents, and they take on the tactics that need to be taken care of every single day in city government. So when you talk about the two entities as individual parts, they require both pieces working together. Otherwise, you lose part of that foundation somewhere in between the cracks of meeting and joining and finding a probable solution for the community. So when we think about that, I think, again, the transparency that has been talked about and the networking that has been talked about is going to be very, very I guess, the fundamental basis of what's going to create a positive city structure moving forward.
Okay, thank you. With decreasing revenue from our sales tax and less financial help expected from the state, is there room in the city's budget for things other than roads and public safety? for example, historic preservation or bike paths or other amenities. So we're talking about priorities.
Again, absolutely. I think that there's plenty of room and ways to be creative in achieving the projects that we currently have in place and the projects that will build a strong network or a strong fabric of a community. If you focus strictly on police, fire, water, and sewer, and you let go of projects such as recreation centers, greenways, children's museums, ice rinks, things that keep people in their community, resources they utilize on a daily basis, you lose a part of that fabric within your community, and they begin to look other places for those resources. We've heard about, downtown Cheyenne not being open after 5 p.m. or them not being able to bring businesses into the community that welcome people after 5 p.m. and so they think they have to go other places to shop. I disagree with that. I think that Cheyenne has some great, wonderful opportunities. We just need to put them on the forefront and continue to move forward with them. When you look at the water, sewer, and fire, yes, those are absolute necessities that have to be funded and require our dollars in order for them to become achievable. When you look at things like ice rinks, children's museums, those types of recreational opportunities, there are corporate dollars that are out there. There are fundamental grants that can be written to help fund those projects and can keep those projects moving forward. We don't have to rely on a fifth, sixth, or possibly even a seventh penny to do that. We have to be creative, and we have to network the two together. Every one of these questions so far have had two parts, and they will have to crack somewhere in the middle, somewhere to say, well, this is the reason, and we're going to point a finger and blame as to why. We need to get past that, move past that, and begin to build a city government that works together.
Okay, thank you. What changes, if any, should be made to codes, regulations, and fees?
That's interesting because, again, using the bus fare as a prime example of a problem that has happened in this community is it goes 24 years without any increases. And then we look at a situation and say, we're just not seeing enough revenue coming in, or we're not meeting department revenue goals, and so now we have to have an increase. Now, it was 50 cents, and people became very frustrated and upset when you talked about the 50 cents. But the reality is it was a 24-year period. If you were to divide that up over time and have smaller increments increases, or look at your fees in the city that we have, whether it's building permits or whatever you have a fee associated with, then you have time to do that. You have time to move those projects forward and to do those types of things. It's interesting when you think about public safety and you think about regulations and codes and fees. Things that come before the city council come from three primary sources: the voice of the elected official, a citizen with a special interest, and city employees. Those people are the people that bring forth the current problems that we have or ways for us to move past that. We need to have the citizens, the constituents' voices heard continuously, and we need to work with them on that. I've talked about having if I'm elected, I would like to develop a core development group or a citizens at large group that would meet with me on a regular basis, just like I would like to meet with the mayor's office on a regular basis and my fellow council members and department heads on a regular basis. But again, it goes back to the constituents and it goes back to the citizens, reaching out to them and hearing their voices before we move forward on something, changing a code or changing a regulation. We need their input, and there's a reason they come to us. We also need to go to them at times.
Okay, thank you. What can and should the city do to support economic growth and development downtown?
We have a direct responsibility, I believe, in the infrastructure: police, fire, water, sewer, sidewalk, street, curb and gutter, alleys, trash removal. Those are all direct responsibilities that we have. I think that when we talk about creating new business, we're not in the job to create new businesses. That's not what the city council does. We're here to give them a path of least resistance or a path of creativity to get there with the least resistance, and have codes in place and ordinances in place that should be enforced to make that potential opportunity come to fruition and make it a quality project that came to fruition. When we talk about getting involved and bringing new businesses to Cheyenne or helping new businesses, again, you heard from other council people this evening or candidates that are running, and LCCC has a wonderful program that will help you set out a business plan and have a goal. And that's really what it's about. It's about a quality business plan and a quality goal that you can execute, and then it has a beginning and it has a middle and it has an end. But we're not, as a city council, directly responsible to create those opportunities. We're here to give you tools, and we're here to give you quality amenities. And that's, I really believe, what our job is as a city council.
Okay, thank you. How much time do you expect to spend each week on regular meetings, community activities, and constituent contacts? All the things entailed by being a council member.
I don't think you can put a direct time on any of it. We talked about that before with 40-hour work week and then tacking 40 hours of community service. That's really what this job is a community service object. And you have to be willing to put that into it. I'm not going to limit myself to saying that 40 hours or 20 hours or 10 hours would do that. What I would say is if I'm chosen or if I'm elected by my constituents, that I will do whatever it takes to make sure that we meet the goals of our community, and we do it in a fashion that we've met the goal, but we also have long-term commitments put into there and long-term responsibilities put in there that we can carry through with. I don't want to be the guy that brings the project to the table, gets it open, or gets the ordinance put in place, and then we just forget about it. It doesn't work for us. So when you talk about 40-hour work weeks or 10 hours, I'm dedicated to whatever it takes. And I don't think you can put a cap on that at any level or at any time.
Okay, thank you. And would you support a non-discrimination ordinance?
I would. The one that was brought before the city council before did not meet the criteria, in my opinion, after looking at it, that would suit the constituents and would suit the city the way that it should. We live in a very welcoming community, in my opinion. I'm very happy here. I know my neighbors are happy here. And we don't have some of the problems that bigger communities have or bigger cities have. Again, going back to fabric, we have a wonderful fabric in our community of people that will help each other in times of need, will help each other when they see that there is a need or a want, and they will help you develop that. In terms of a non-discrimination, anti-ordinance at the city level, I would support anything that would stop discrimination or stop the possibility of there ever being discrimination within the city government. I don't think that an ordinance, though, really puts the stop to it. It stops with building and educating a great community, and I think Cheyenne does a great job of that already. We just need to continue on that path of being great citizens and working together.
Okay, well, that wraps up my questions. Pat, where do we stand?
2 minutes and 6 seconds.
All right.
I'm
so
fine.
Do you want to take another minute or so to talk about, to expand on anything else you've done? You will have 2 minutes at the very end.
Nope, we're fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Valencia, are you ready to start your piece of the evening?
You bet.
All right.
I probably need 2 minutes total. Just kidding.
And when would you like the time went to
5
Pat?
minutes, is that
Just
what
halfway
Yeah,
through?
5
or
is fine.
Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Yeah.
All right, here we go then. Cheyenne has the largest, most complex municipal government in the state. Meanwhile, we heard complaints during the city administrator debate about the power of the mayor's office to limit council access to information and decision-making. What is the proper balance of power between the executive and legislative branches? What governing style would you like to see in the new mayor's office?
Okay. The governing style, I think, should be about 100% of full disclosure from the mayor's office, as well as the administrators themselves, even the city employees. They've done the job. They've already known what needs to be done, and they just need to share that back with the mayor and the council, and then to implement a plan, and then also have a unified vision of to make it all to where it all makes sense. Basically, all items and discussions should be opened to the public as well as the council, and decisions made on the fact of what really is best for the city of Cheyenne and its people. So basically, to simplify it, run it as a business, and make sure that it's a win-win for everybody.
Okay, thank you. With decreasing revenue from our sales tax and less financial help expected from the state, is there room in the city's budget for things other than roads and public safety, say historic preservation, bike paths, or other amenities?
Okay, well, the city's already got tools in place, or basically utilize some of the parks or whatever we need to basically get additional revenues. Like I said, run it like a business where if we can make money, the city needs to make money to spend money. Yes, we have taxes that come in. There's either grants that we can look at, and we can actually go out to corporate America as well as the public, the citizens themselves. I'm sure a lot of citizens themselves are willing to also be involved in some of these amenities, so that way, if there's something that we need to build out, let's ask the public if they're interested as well as corporate America. So I'm looking at it as, let's make it a win-win for all by working with everybody in the community, businesses, the government, and the citizens.
Okay, thank you. What changes, if any, should be made to codes, regulations, and fees?
Okay, so somebody already did the research on why these codes and regulations and fees are in place. The fees can always be looked at. I lived in Chandler, Arizona, and I know the fact is that when you need something or you need to go to the city to, whether you're getting a building permit or any kind of fee, their pricing is like double our price. And Cheyenne doesn't even have state tax, or Wyoming doesn't even have state tax. So there's no reason why we could not necessarily raise those fees, maybe not double of them, but there's good revenue that could be made there. Like I said, if we run the city as a business, we're providing a service, we're providing, whether it's a fee or permission to do something, why not take that money and use it for what we need it for as well? So there's no reason to raising the fees, as well as leaving the codes and regulations in place, but also enforce them, just like the rest of the gentlemen said here as well. Enforcing them is what we need to do, and sometimes some of those codes are in place because of a special interest group. So if that's the case and there is an issue with them, maybe look at them at that time.
Okay, thank you. What can and should the city do to support economic growth and development downtown?
I was in Denver this weekend, and basically the community themselves, the restaurants downtown, basically provided their own block parties, bringing people downtown, similar to like what we do at the Depot, the Plaza. So, and it was an all-day event on a Saturday, closed down part of downtown Denver. The restaurants and the businesses down there inviting people out. They bring entertainment in. So there's ways for the city itself to revitalize itself, as well as corporate America. You have above these businesses, you have high-rise luxury apartments, affordable housing. Cheyenne already has the issue with the inventory of low housing. So as well, last time I was talking about is a grocery store, even downtown. The closest grocery store to anybody in this neighborhood or downtown area is way on the outskirts of town. So you look at corporate America, or even like Walgreens or a Safeway or something, be interested. And there was a Safeway down here at one time. It was an older Safeway, but actually, if you were able to get a newer style, newer technology to attract people and attract other businesses to work or be part of that commercial networking, where there's a business in place, so businesses can strive off the existing businesses attracting the customers downtown, whether it's a restaurant or a clothing store, but they're there to go to the grocery store and then hit the other stores while they're there.
Okay.
Or the pharmacy, like Walgreens or something.
Okay, thank you. How much time do you expect to spend each week on regular meetings, community activities, and constituent contacts, all the things entailed by being a council member?
Well, in my profession, I've always been in sales, and in sales, you're available 24/7, 365, because every sale means revenues for yourself or my company or whoever. So at the same time, I think a council member as well as the mayor should be available 24/7 as well. I think the most part they are. And to get the job done, I'd like to see issues being simplified, just like we talked about the complex of the government itself. So if we simplify the way we do business or run the city, then obviously that's going to free up a lot more time to be more of a positive impact instead of just listening to negative impacts of what the city wants. So we're actually going to be saying that's been taken care of, because I've already simplified the way that we had thought about the situation. It's been rectified, and we're here to make the city a better place, so it's going to take whatever time it needs to take.
Okay, thank you. Would you support a non-discrimination ordinance?
Well, Cheyenne is already a great community. Anywhere I've gone, anywhere I've lived before, if you have any kind of a Wyoming colors on, or the bucking horse or anything, and people will come up to you, oh, you're from Wyoming, you're from Cheyenne. The people in Cheyenne, the people from Wyoming are great people. So really, yeah, I would support it. I think the city of Cheyenne, maybe we can be instrumental in rolling it out first. It should probably come from the state, or well, for sure the federal and state level. But if we can work in reverse and say, hey, here's what we've done, let's roll it uphill instead. So yes, I would support.
Okay, thank you. And where do we stand at?
You still have 4 minutes and
Okay.
15 seconds.
I'm good.
Did you want to, okay, all right. Okay, well, we finished with that part, and, I'm not sure how we want to do that without Mr. Camargo here. We have extra time, actually, for you guys to either, well, I guess maybe we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Laybourne again, and you have 2 minutes, and if at some point, since we have extra time, if you want to include some of that remarks, you might, if you have a question for another candidate that you'd like to hear more, them expand on one of their answers, that we actually would have time for that. But go ahead and use your 2 minutes as you see fit, and then we'll go on from there. And,
Thank you, Marguerite.
Yeah, and if you could use a little bit of that time to talk about yourself, and so voters have an idea of who you are. If that's your desire, it'd be a good thing, though.
Well, thank you, Marguerite. I think many people here in Cheyenne are aware of who I am and what I do. In the discussion I hear today, and as well as many hours I've spent in this room, I've been involved in city government for more than 30 years. And that goes back to some very successful projects and some very unsuccessful projects. It's sometimes things work out and sometimes they don't. But of course, I'm very proud of the Greenway and its growth. I would point out that the Business Parkway was part of a initiative that I participated in a sales tax election in 1989. And we lost the downtown portion of that, but there was funds released from the creation of the jail at the time that were invested in the Business Parkway. So sometimes it isn't a direct relationship, but oftentimes moving the community forward can come about in a variety of ways. I'm very concerned about some of the things I'm hearing in the discussion tonight, as well as in the discussion throughout the community. We have a lot of plans. I've been involved in those plans. I've sat through innumerable downtown brainstorming sessions. I've participated in the marketing plan, in the historic placemaking plan. The problem is those plans aren't evaluated as to what was accomplished. I think all plans over a period of several years, you should look back and say, well, we got this, we didn't get that, this works, that didn't. We put them on a shelf. I mean, I think it's well known in the community that that's the case. So when you talk about the plans that we have Plan Cheyenne, we have a variety of plans. We don't need another mission statement. We don't need more plans. We need some people up here that have the experience and the ability to sift through those matters and come to conclusions that are going to move this city forward. And I think I'm that person.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Eckhart, 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Marguerite. It appears Pete wants to debate plans. I'm in no mood. Our campaign stands as it stands. It's called Think Big for a reason, and we stand by it. Most people here know me as well. I was editor of the paper for 18 years, and in that time we spent plenty of time writing about each on the city council, analyzing them, and expressing thoughts about them, helping community discussion about them. I am more just the editor of the paper, however. I've been here for 18 years. We raised a daughter here, and enjoyed all the great things that Cheyenne has to offer to families here in Cheyenne. 4 years ago, she decided to leave the state. She decided that Cheyenne and Wyoming didn't have enough for her, that there were bigger places to go and bigger things to see and bigger things to do. She's not an aberration. We lose half of our UW graduates out of state the day after they graduate. We lose 22% of our workforce does not live in Cheyenne. There are 3,000 to 4,000 young professionals every night who get in their cars here in Cheyenne and drive home to go to live and play in northern Colorado. It's our hope to find ways to capture some of those people and keep our young people here, or to bring in young professionals. That's what I think Big Campaign is all about. I also have been involved in community service in a number of ways. In 2004, we helped form the Cheyenne Meth Initiative with Chief Bob Fecht, and we helped to ease the meth problem here. I serve on the board of the Hathaway Scholarships, and we help form the scholarships that many of your young people now enjoy. I work with my wife in the Historic Governors Mansion Foundation. At the Wyoming Tribune Eagle, we fought hard for the people of this community to have their government open. We fought both in the paper and in the courts to make sure that people had access to documents, people could get into meetings when government tried to block them. We think that thinking about vision, thinking forward is what good communities and leadership is all about, and we stand by it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Fountain, 2 minutes to tell more about yourself, more about your positions, or comment on others.
I'll talk a little about myself, I guess. I think a lot of folks have said you have to put a face with a name or a name with a face, and I've been here my whole life. I was not born here, but I have been raised here. Been here since 1981. I have 2 wonderful children that were born here and have been raised here, and they live here. And we hear about people saying, gosh, people are leaving here because there's nothing for them to do, or there's no work here, or life isn't great here, the quality of life isn't good. And I would challenge that. I would challenge each of you to really think about just how good the quality of life is in Cheyenne. I have been on a lot of projects, been on a lot of boards, and I've served in our community. I've been a paraprofessional for Laramie County School District for about 13 years, working with at-risk students. And I was also the coach of the boys basketball team, girls basketball team. I was also on the board of directors for the Cheyenne Family YMCA, and I also worked for the Cheyenne Family YMCA as youth sports director and had the largest youth sports program ever. So there are things for people to do. I currently serve on the Brewfest Committee, which was a phenomenal event this year, which raises money for the historic depot. I serve on the LCCC Paralegal Advisory Board. There's a lot of youth and a lot of young adults going through that program with a lot of success coming out. I also currently serve on the After School Kids program, which is an ASK program, which we teach kids about hydroponics, and we teach them about renewable energy resources in their community. And we provide them a nutritious meal and somewhere to be safe until 7 p.m. I've been a coach. I've coached at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, coaching kids in inline speed skating. And with each one of these things, it's developed me into the person that I've become, and understanding that there is a unique fabric of our community, and that is called volunteer work. And each one of us, as we journey off into that and we do that, just like this job here, you'll take something unique from it, but you'll also give something unique back. And I think when Reed talks about thinking big and Pete talks about great plans that are already in place, those are some of those great things that have happened and will continue to happen. Again, Cheyenne's a great place to live. You just have to look for those resources and live by those resources.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Valencia, you have 2 minutes to touch on new things or cover old things and talk about yourself.
All right, thank you. Basically, Cheyenne's potential is unlimited. The Cheyenne citizens, I know, are very much want to be involved in what happens to the city of Cheyenne. Basically, I've lived in Cheyenne all my life. I moved away for part-time, but I've always worked in corporate America in sales. I've worked with C-level executives, CEOs, CFOs, CIOs, basically closing business voice and data solutions. So when it comes to actually selling off the citizens or selling the corporate America or the public an idea or a vision and making it and implementing it and making it work, I have that vision. I've done that. I've closed deals, and maybe it's in a different form, in a telecommunications form, but at the same time, it's a win-win. It's a service that somebody needed, wanted, and it's going to help them grow in the future and to continue to grow in the future. Sorry. So basically, what I like to say too, vote for me is vote for yourself towards making Cheyenne a better place to live. My goals are to bring in new revenues, revitalize the city, better streets, of course, and collaborating with the newly elected mayor and citizens of Cheyenne for a unified vision. If plans are in place already, well, let's implement them and make them work, and let's find the revenues to make that happen. If the visions are there, if we need to think big, let's think big and make it happen. And just like everybody else that wants to be part of the city council, they're going to do their best, and I'll do the same.
Cheyenne has the largest, most complex municipal government in the state. Meanwhile, we heard complaints during the city administrator debate about the power of the mayor's office to limit council's access to information and decision-making. What is the proper balance of power between the executive and legislative branches? What governing style would you like to see in the new mayor's office?
Right now, like I said before, I think the mayor's office and the city council are split down the middle. I think there's a lot of bullying that goes in there. I think the mayor's office especially does a lot of bullying with the city council. They don't talk enough. They don't speak to each other enough. I'd like to see a more stable city council and mayor's office to where, they meet on more than one occasion during the month, where they include everybody in on the decision making, where the information is just as one whole, and less split apart. The city council and the mayor's office right now is very unproductive. Nothing gets done, I don't think. I think it's a very negative environment, and I think whoever gets in the city council, one of the first things to do is try and fix the city council and the mayor's office to where they could be more as one.
Okay, thank you. With decreasing revenue from our sales tax and less financial help expected from the state, is there room in the city's budget for things other than roads and public safety, historic preservation, bike paths, or other amenities?
Yes, I think there is a little bit of room in the city's budget. Obviously there won't be as much, but we can't forget about the beautification processes or any of the historic preservations of our community. That's what built our community, is the historic value. The like parks, for instance. A lot of tourists like to come in, bring their kids to parks. Right now, they don't like doing that because a lot of our parks are run down, except for Lions Park and Holiday Park. We forget a lot about what's in our community and what we need to preserve. But on the other hand, we do need to, we are in a budget crisis, so we need to look at what we can spend and what we can't spend. And, obviously the roads are going to be I think the biggest priority right now.
Okay, thank you. What changes, if any, should be made to codes, regulations, and fees?
Right now, I don't think there's really any changes that need to be made to the codes, fees. They're there for a reason. I think they need to be looked at. I think, there could be a couple things added to them, like, how we look at our roads, for instance. The type of regulations we put on that, the type, how we look at the products, those type of regulations need to be added. I just think all in all, we need to take another look at our building codes and regulations and see if there's things we need to add or if it's good the way it is.
Okay, thank you. What can and should the city do to support economic growth and development downtown?
I would like to see the city participate in a lot more of the nonprofit organizations. I feel they could participate more in the DDA, help them get their message across, support a lot of the businesses that help other small businesses, point them in the right direction, where they need to go, what they need to do to get off the ground, like Cheyenne Leads, places like that. I would like to see the city just participate a lot more in the nonprofit organizations and the beautification process of downtown. And I would like to see the city start making a bigger move in a lot of the abandoned buildings in downtown. Helping get those rented out, beautified, getting the business owners to do that, whether it be by adding fees, adding the taxes, or whatnot.
Okay, thank you. How much time do you expect to spend each week on regular meetings, community activities, and constituent contacts, all the things entailed by being a council member?
I consider this, this is going to be more than a full-time job, I believe. When you're serving the people and the community, there's no part-time involved. You're going to be listening to what the people have to say at all hours of the day. You have to abide by their needs and their wants anytime. as far as I know right now, I think the city council, they don't have the care to go out and meet the community. They don't feel like the community needs to get involved more, and that's what I think needs to change. And that's going to be well over 40 hours a week, because we have to start fixing the relationship between the community and the city council.
Okay. And then finally, would you support a non-discrimination ordinance?
Like I said before, I highly support the non-discrimination ordinance. I feel it's what Cheyenne needs. We are the quality state. We need to own that. You know, we can't. It should not matter what your sexual orientation is, what your color is. Nothing along those lines should matter. It shouldn't. You should be able to get a job wherever you want. You should be able to get served wherever you want. Nothing should matter. And I feel that a non-discrimination ordinance is what we need. Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So, and that wraps up our questions. And you have 2 extra minutes added on to that unfortunately you kind of missed the responses of the other candidates. So you'll be talking about yourself to expand on what you've said, and then I'm going to give everyone a chance afterwards to make a final remark, either referencing your answers or just generally wrapping up. So go ahead and take 2 minutes if you would like to talk about yourself or more about the questions or something new.
Okay. Well, I'm Chris Camargo. I'm 26 years old. I've lived, born and raised in Ward 1 on the south side of Cheyenne. I feel I am the best candidate for the job because I'd like to give voice to the people that don't feel like they have a voice. They're really disconnected. I would like for them to be more heard, and I'd like to be that voice. You know, the city's ready for a change, a big change, whether it be by me or anyone else that gets voted in. The city needs change. Change is good. And I feel I could bring that change to the table. I think the city council needs some new energy. And that's that.
All right, thank you. Does anyone want to have an extra 30, 40 seconds to sum up or extra time to add or comment? Yes.
Thank you, Marguerite. Well, I'd like to point out, and as Mr. Camargo has pointed out in his campaign, if we're not getting value from our product on the street, then there really is a tremendous pressure to go to those other funding sources that have traditionally been used for other projects like the 6th penny and the proposed 7th penny. If we're not getting that quality, it isn't a question of money, it's a question of performance. And really what we have to do here is see what that performance is in fact. What is the performance in planning? What is the performance in delivery? What is the performance in the employees? And particularly, what is the performance of the elected officials?
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to add?
Margaret, please.
Okay.
On streets, I think this has become a big issue in the campaign, and I think it's important to think about it. Highest quality concrete, highest quality asphalt are not going to fill up a $2.5 million deficit. And I think we need to be thinking about it in a much bigger way. We're going to have to find a way to get ourselves going. We're losing $2.5 million a year. That means in 2 years we're $5 million behind. In 3 years we're $7.5 million behind. So we've got to find a way to fund streets across all of our funding sources rather than just try to pretend we can do it with the money we have now.
Okay, very good. And I think that wraps it up. I want to thank the city for making this room available twice for this forum, and thank Charter Communications for recording it twice and for making it available on TV and online. Thank the Tribune Eagle, which has been a co-sponsor of these with their publicity, and especially the League of Women Voters really wants to thank the candidates who have created an excellent slate for the voters, for the primary, and then again for the general. And thank you for showing up again and being very patient with the technology and showing up here today and offering you to the voters for Ward 1 Cheyenne City Council. So thank you.
Thank you for having us, Marguerite.
All righty. Thanks, guys.